It was a time when the world was illuminated by fire. Machines were powered by human strength and steam. After mankind discovered fire thousands of years ago, they were about to discover another invention just as important, an invention that would change the world. For people today, escaping the darkness of night is as simple as pressing a button. But about 130 years ago, nights were pitch dark. A child born in Michigan in 1847 would change this, Thomas Alva Edison. As a child, he was very curious. It is said that once he sat on the chicken's eggs and wondered what would happen. In fact, even at that young age, he was someone who wondered how things would work and conducted experimental studies. As he grew older, he became someone who spent his days reading books, researching, and conducting chemistry experiments. In 1862, at the age of 15, he started his first job as a telegraph operator to provide financial support to his family. His ears began to lose hearing due to a disease unique to him. This made him even more introverted, but also someone who concentrated on his work. He immersed himself in the study and research of telegraphs, devouring all knowledge about them. He started thinking about how he could make it better. Thomas Edison's first patented invention was a vote recorder, a machine that could count votes faster. But for some reason, this wasn't liked by politicians and didn't attract much interest. Edison didn't give up and developed his second patented invention, the printing telegraph. This earned him a fortune. He invested this fortune by opening a factory in 1876 at the age of 29. This was a factory that enabled the creation of these new inventions. Many experts were working in its laboratory. With the money that most people would spend a lifetime earning, he invested to make even more inventions. No matter what invention was made in this laboratory, Edison would get the patent. He had made an agreement with them about this, and this was considered by some to be clever and by others to be cunning. Almost every month, a major invention was being made. But his most important invention happened at the beginning of his 30s. At that time, houses were lit with gas lamps, but there were many disadvantages to this. The houses smelled of soot, there were fire hazards, and constant supervision was needed. But this was about to change. Edison set up a simple system by placing electric wires side by side, just a few centimeters apart. He wanted to place an object between these two that would react to electricity and emit light. He conducted many experiments for this system that could heat up with electricity and emit light. The goal was for the material in between to emit light and to be able to do this for a long time. He used a copper wire for this. Yes, it emitted light, but only for a very short time. He experimented with many different things, but it still didn't work. He used a thicker wire, but this time it didn't emit enough light. Maybe he had tried hundreds of things, but it still wasn't working. Then he used a carbon with a thickness of 0.7, just like the lead in mechanical pencils. The result was incredible. In 1879, after over 10,000 filament tests, Edison's experiment finally succeeded without breaking, despite the heat. It would have been great if it lasted another 2 hours, 1 hour, then 2 hours, and 3 hours. They started pulling their hair out with joy. It was still shining, 7 hours and 8 hours. They couldn't take their eyes off that shining thing. Then they stopped counting. After 13.5 hours, it burst, and Edison turned to his friends and said, "The world will never be the same again." At that time, Graham Bell and his friend Charles Sumner were working on a device that could transmit sound over long distances. And in 1880, they succeeded in inventing it, the telephone. Edison was very impressed by this, and hundreds of ideas formed in his mind. It was the thought of how he could let people much farther away hear this sound. The only way to achieve this was to preserve the sound. In other words, to record it. That way, you could take a sound even to the other side of the world. While everything was going well, Edison's wife Mary passed away at a young age in 1884 due to illness. It was said that her death was caused by an overdose of morphine. This deeply wounded Edison. For a while, he was like a lonely person among crowds. But over the years, Edison continued to dedicate himself to inventions. He was thinking of taking Graham Bell's invention to another level. To be able to record a conversation, he was just thinking about how this could be done. After many experiments, sketches of the machine he called the Phonograph, which means sound writer in ancient Greek, began to emerge. By 1887, he had finally completed his invention. It was a sound recorder. Edison turned the crank of the phonograph and began to hum. Another name for this is the gramophone, a device that preserves sound on a record. The gramophone is the device that processes the record and turns it into sound.
Hello, hello, hello. Mary had a little lamb. Its fleece was white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. Reposition the horn back. Let's see what we can hear. Hello, Mary had a little lamb with fleece white as snow.
Edison made recordings on tinfoil, and the sound could only be played back once. Still, Edison's machine caused a sensation instantly. It attracted widespread attention and was covered in the press. Edison left a sound recording for history to celebrate this.
I am introducing the most wonderful thing I have ever experienced, and I greet you with all my heart for this marvelous discovery.
After his initial excitement about his invention, Edison stopped working on the talking machine to further develop the electric light bulb. Upon this discovery, Graham Bell sadly said, "I have officially let this invention slip through my fingers." Edison had succeeded in inventing a light-emitting bulb. Next, it was time to use it in cities. It was necessary to tear up the streets and run electric current underground. A newspaper from 1888 wrote, "Soon, the city of New York will be illuminated by electric light." On September 4th, the electric lights on Pearl Street were turned on and hundreds of lamps began to shine. Meanwhile, George Westinghouse had founded an electric company and started working saying, "I can make this better." He wanted to move forward with a system developed in Europe as an alternative to direct current. Edison was using direct current or direct current. The current he advocated flowed only forward on a single line, and it couldn't go beyond 2 kilometers. It was necessary to bury a lot of cables and use a generator every other street. Yes, maybe it was safer, but it wasn't sustainable. The alternating current developed by Westinghouse and Nikola Tesla together was a system in which the voltage could be changed and the direction could go back and forth. It was much cheaper. Moreover, it could travel miles from a single point and light up that area. The only problem was that alternating current could be deadly for people, and Edison focused on this issue. Edison knew direct current was unsustainable, but he had invested everything in it and was quite stubborn. Tesla was introducing his own alternating current, and this current was impressing everyone. What he was saying completely reflected his future. He had to do something before things turned against Edison. Edison connected an actual alternating current circuit to show people how deadly this current was, and the elephant lost its life within seconds. That wasn't enough, he demonstrated it on a horse as well. Edison performed these demonstrations in many different places and turned people against alternating current. He also distributed many brochures showing the destructive effects of alternating current in organized campaigns. His friends had warned Edison and told him that alternating current was much better and more sustainable. They told him, "Admit that alternating current is good now. Let's merge with the Westinghouse company." But as I said, he was stubborn and did not accept this. He was supporting a wrong technology for his own interests. He saw himself at the top at this point and couldn't swallow his pride. He acted like he had created this world. The Westinghouse company had started using alternating current, and along the way, they had put up poles carrying it. They had prepared a big show at the Chicago World's Fair, and when the lights were turned on, everyone was mesmerized. Alternating current had now won the war. Edison had lost. On February 25, 1888, Muybridge gave a lecture where he demonstrated the zoopraxiscope, a device that projected sequential images drawn around the edge of a glass disc, creating the illusion of motion. This was a device containing different photographs, and when it started spinning, it gave the impression that the images were moving. Edison had a meeting with him. He said, "We should combine my phonograph with your machine." So he wanted sound and image to be together. Then he said, "I can do this on my own." And a few months later, he prepared a patent application for a device called the kinetograph. He had completed this device, also known as the kinetoscope. The name of Edison's first film was Sneeze. A man was recorded while sneezing. This 2-second film was given to the London Library to protect its rights. In the following days, many films were recorded, including Flying Birds, A Walking Man, A Woman on a Horse, and many other short films consisting of images like The Girl Who Looks Like She's Jumping. In Edison's company's extensive catalog, there were many moving images, and he made a device that people could watch these films through a peephole in exchange for a ticket. He even turned this into a business. At the beginning of 1895, French inventors, Auguste and Louis Lumière, invented the projection system and presented the first cinema film screening in Paris. Thus, the first cinema film, and even the first film director and producer, were born. In 1896, the world's first video of Niagara Falls was filmed by Edison. What I find quite ironic is that Tesla built the world's first hydroelectric power plant at Niagara Falls using alternating current, and Edison was the one to record it. Looking back at history, someone would invent something, and Edison would make small tweaks to their achievements or inventions and then patent them. In fact, there was a nice reference to this topic in the animated series Family Guy.
What's that? What's that thing you're working on? It's a light bulb, and a light bulb. I invented that. Me, I'm Thomas Edison. What are you working on? It's a phonograph. Phonograph. I knew that because I invented it.
The basic form of the light bulb was invented by Humphrey Davy. Joseph Swain made the first example of the modern light bulb. The phonograph was discovered by Emile Berliner, and the kinetoscope was discovered by Louis Leprance. I'm not even talking about what Tesla did. It wouldn't be quite right to call Edison a thief, but I can say he was very cunning. For someone who recorded the inventions made by dozens of people in his own laboratory as his own inventions in history, that's actually an understatement. Edison retired in 1926 at the age of 79. When he retired, he had more than 1,000 patents registered in his name. He was now living a somewhat peaceful life and was almost completely deaf. In October 1931, Thomas Alva Edison passed away. More than 50,000 people attended his funeral to pay their respects. At the request of President Howard, lights were turned off all across the country. That day, it was as if the darkness was paying respect to Edison. The world was changing, and it would continue to change, and it was ready for it. Darkness had given way to light. After Thomas Edison lost the current war, he focused on the phonograph and short films. The inventions of many people have remained in the shadow of Thomas Edison's name and have not found a place in history. The greatest number of inventions in the world took place during the era of Tesla and Edison. Edison's motto was that he would never invent anything he couldn't sell.